The story shortly, but first tonight on Your Story, India's Supreme Court says it will pronounce its interim order on Friday on the plea seeking an interim stay on the government's decision directing the mandatory linking of the Aadhaar card with various government schemes and welfare measures, including bank accounts as well as mobile phone numbers. The counsel for the petitioners argued that without data protection laws, the Aadhaar cannot be made compulsory. Just yesterday, the government indefinitely extended the December 31st deadline for linking the Aadhaar with bank accounts. The Supreme Court earlier ordered a specific rule that said that Aadhaar is voluntary, but the government has now made it mandatory. Well, as per the Supreme Court's orders, there were only 6 schemes for which Aadhaar was needed. But now the government has extended it to 139 schemes. Activists have objected to it, saying the government's order to link Aadhaar with bank and investment accounts, mobile phones, saying all of this is simply a breach of the fundamental right to privacy. They've also challenged the validity of the Aadhaar card, which collects and stores biometric data like fingerprints, iris scans, saying that this may be hacked or misused.
The Apex Court has reserved its order in the Aadhaar case. Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m, we will know whether Aadhaar is mandatory to be linked with bank accounts, PAN cards, death certificate, birth certificates or even phone numbers. The petitioners alleged that the data was being breached and it was being supplied to external agencies. Even mention of Pakistan was there, that the data needs to be protected since the country does not have a data protection law. It's important to see on how the Apex Court will view the petitioners' arguments in the light of right to privacy judgment given by the Apex Court very recently. Jessica Taneja with video journalist Balaji, WION, New Delhi.
All right, let's also listen into some reaction coming in when it comes to the Aadhaar card. Are people for it or against it?
As far as Aadhaar, it's been time and again told it's a quite safe option because the service providers, whoever are using Aadhaar to verify, can only use your Aadhaar if when you give your OTP or give a finger impression. So only then you can probably use it. So it's not that anybody and everybody will get access.
You are yourself telling lies that the data is safe. At the same time, under the contract, Section 3.1 of Annexure B, Section 15.1 to 15.3 of Annexure A of the contract provides for access to all data by foreign biometric solution providers of UIDAI. So there is absolutely no safety. This data cannot be protected. There is no privacy at all because every transaction of yours is monitored and entered into this database.
Well, with the raging debate in India around the Aadhaar card, WION decided to take a look at how other countries deal with such similar measures, including social security cards, and whether the privacy concerns are the same worldwide. Well, in the United States, the Social Security has been around for decades, but the Social Security card itself has long fallen out of favor. WION's correspondent in Chicago, Andy Rosegan, explains.
Social Security was developed here in America in 1935 as a safety net for American workers during the Great Depression. Just about anybody who's ever worked is eligible for Social Security, even billionaires.
And this year, about 62 million Americans will get monthly benefits. But Social Security cards themselves, made of paper, don't do anything. They don't double up as credit cards or serve any other function. And there has never been any serious talk of changing that. In fact, many Americans don't even bother keeping them around anymore. But what is on their minds these days is their Social Security number assigned to each person, unless you can get that number changed under very rare circumstances. That 9-digit number that does not change ever. And that can be trouble. Identity thieves consider your 9-digit Social Security number the holy grail for hacking into and stealing your personal information.
Are you worried about your number at risk?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The Social Security card number was never meant to verify who a person is, just to track a person's work history. But over the years, private businesses have used Social Security numbers to verify Americans every time they want to do just about anything involving large amounts of money, apply for a credit card or a bank loan or rent an apartment or office space.
What do you do to protect yourself?
You can't. You can't. Driver education has to know your number. Banks have to know your numbers. Companies that you work for have to know your numbers, and they're all getting hacked.
Until recently, social security numbers were even printed on some driver licenses and student IDs at colleges. But the massive breach this year of the credit agency Equifax, in which 143 million consumers may have had their social security numbers exposed, is now creating calls for change. The hunt is on for tech software that a person could use to prove their identity to someone without giving away information that can be used to impersonate them. For example, in 2015, major credit card companies forced US retailers to move to chip cards, a technology that produces a unique code for each transaction without sharing the actual card number. And lawmakers at the federal level and in individual states are proposing new regulations to clamp down on businesses' use of social security numbers to try to protect those numbers from public exposure.
It may take a while, but with the number of identity theft and fraud complaints now stretching into the hundreds of millions every year here in America, those changes would clearly be worth it. Andy Rosen in Chicago for WION.
All right, let's go to some perspective on this. Let's get some guest reaction coming in. We have Subhash Agarwal joining us. He's an RTI activist right here in the Noida studio. Great to have you here. When it comes to the Aadhaar card, lots of controversies, lots of speculation about data privacy. Perhaps, is there something that India could learn from other countries when it comes to this? We just saw the report about Social Security.
Yes. See, I do favor linking of some identity card with all these benefit transfer scheme and various schemes and other items. But I don't favor Aadhaar card at all, because Aadhaar card is not made properly. There is no proper investigation in giving an Aadhaar card. Earlier, some private shops were there who were issuing Aadhaar cards by charging 20 rupees, 50 rupees, 100 rupees without verifying the identity. And many foreign nationals who were not Indians also received Aadhaar cards. So use of Aadhaar cards in India is not at all safe. And secondly, they say that fingerprints, eye marks, these are all personal data. Can't these be misused? And there are already reports that data leak is there. So there is no proper security for privacy, and even the issue of Aadhaar card is not proper.
All right.
Therefore, Aadhaar card linking in the manner till Aadhaar cards are properly verified is not proper.
All right, let's also bring in perspective from Amit Dubey, cybersecurity expert, to get perspective on this. Amit, great to have you again on the program. One of the concerns is about data privacy, the concerns about people's data sort of being vulnerable. That's been a huge discussion point when it comes to the Aadhaar card. And as we just heard from Subhash, who talked about that, it may be easy for people to get access to that data. Is that one of the fundamental reasons why there's so much of a delay in getting this rolled out?
For sure, because see, we have discussed it multiple times. When the Aadhaar, the UIDI server has been hacked, and that because the biometric system entire was hacked, and they were able to create a cloned biometric, and then they could actually Aadhaar card people. That system and it was available in the market at 5,000 rupees. So this was a serious concern for sure, and we need it. Right.
All right, we're having some technical issues there. Let's hopefully get that connection restored with Amit Dubey. Let me go back to you, Subhash, in terms of that. In terms of this delay going, December 31st, March 31st, could this continue being delayed at some point? I mean, yes, the government wants to roll this out. There's been some back and forth, but in terms of a timeline, is it just sort of a premature decision to roll this out without fully making sure everything is adequately rolled out in a very cohesive manner?
Yes, this is the problem. Without any properly verification and without any preparation,
right,
the scheme is rolled out. This is not proper, and there are always problems in such premature decisions. So first they should verify every Aadhaar card, like voters card are verified, like passports are verified, and the fake Aadhaar cards or Aadhaar cards made given to foreign nationals, these should be once cancelled, and only the real Indians holding the Aadhaar cards, they should be verified, and then only the scheme should be implemented. May take 1 more year or
to fully test it out before it just keep delaying.
Yes.
All right, interesting discussion there. Of course, we'll come back to this topic in a bit. Let's also get perspective on how this type of a system is being implemented in other parts of the world, including Bangladesh and London. First up, in India's neighborhood, Bangladesh has a national identity card. A smart national ID was introduced last year. Its main purpose is to establish the identity of the Bangladeshi citizens. The cardholders get no financial, social, or medical benefits from the government, but the card is used for services like opening bank accounts and mobile phone subscriptions. The concerns are the same as in India: privacy and data hack. Well, Bangladesh's smart national ID card, it is also an identity card for Bangladeshi citizens. It is used for services like opening bank accounts. It is mandatory for mobile SIM cards. No financial or other benefits from government as well. Listen in.
On one side, there's security. On the other, there's services. In order to enjoy the benefits of the services, Dhaka dwellers say that they're pushed to compromise their personal data by sharing with various organizations.
Basically, two sides of this coin. One is sharing data to the government, and other is sharing data with private organizations. In both these issues, we have very limited scope of not sharing data. You see, if I am not sharing my data in, let's say, Facebook, Google, it limits my ability to socialize, network, and use all these facilities that are being offered by this technology.
Depends on who's taking the data. For example, if I want a driver's license here in Bangladesh, I have to give all the information in terms of biometrics and other things. And I'm okay with that because I do need that. But then last couple of weeks ago, I was supposed to get a credit card. And when I applied for that, they wanted 1 year worth of bank statement with all the details of the transactions. And that's something I was like, okay, I'm not going to give you entire access to my bank account transactions for a year. So I opted out from that.
Well, there's also no Aadhaar card in London. We explain how the UK deals with a similar measure. WION's London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, explains how the Londoners deal with this.
Now, interestingly, Britain doesn't have a social security card like India. They have a number of cards that do a number of functions. So the national insurance number allows you to work, a passport allows you to travel. There's no card required for a mobile phone or a SIM. And the National Health Service, you do have to prove residency, but in cases of emergency, the National Health Service, the NHS, really relies on trust that you are indeed a British resident. Now, there would likely be a lot of resistance to an all-in-one biometric card, and that's because the British public would be pretty suspicious of the danger of data leaks or the threat of ID theft and other such crime when one card has such a high volume of personal data. But the British public don't seem to mind sharing personal data with Facebook, Twitter, and other social media giants. They feel the difference is that they choose to share that information. It's not all placed on one card. However, the government is actually quite concerned about the information that social media giants have, and they've been pushing them to protect their users more against fake news, predators, and also allowing users to delete content they may have put in there that was embarrassing when they were younger than 18 years old. Interestingly, around 10 years ago, the Tony Blair government did consider bringing in a biometric card, and they even ran samples and test runs, but ultimately in Britain there was no real appetite, and the scheme was ultimately dropped. Mandy Clark, WION, London.